The flickering neon sign of Joe's Diner cast a warm glow on the rain-slicked street. Sarah, bundled in a trench coat several sizes too big, pulled the collar tighter against the biting November wind. It had been a mistake, coming back to Harmony Falls. A sentimental fool's errand. Yet, here she was, heart pounding a frantic rhythm against her ribs, waiting for a ghost from her past. 20 years. 2 decades since she last saw Michael Thompson, the boy with eyes the color of melted chocolate and a smile that could melt glaciers. Back then, they were inseparable, high school sweethearts with dreams stitched together in a future they believed was theirs. Then, fate, a cruel jester, had intervened. College acceptances in opposite directions, tearful promises whispered in the rain, and a slow, agonizing drift that eventually severed the thread of their connection. A deep breath, laced with a tremor of anticipation, escaped her lips. The diner door creaked open, a wave of warm, greasy air washing over her. Her gaze scanned the red vinyl booths, the chrome stools lining the counter, searching for a familiar face. And then, she saw him. He was older, of course. Lines etched themselves around his eyes, the dark hair flecked with silver. But the essence of him, the way he held himself, the way his smile still held a hint of mischief, that was all Michael. He was laughing with a group of men, his head thrown back, a carefree joy radiating from him. A pang of longing, sharp and unexpected, ripped through her. Hesitantly, she approached their booth. Time seemed to slow as he turned his head, their eyes locking across the worn Formica surface. A flicker of recognition, then a slow, widening grin that mirrored hers. The world around them seemed to fade away, replaced by a bubble of their shared past. "Sarah," he breathed, his voice a husky whisper that sent shivers down her spine. "Michael," she confirmed, her voice barely a croak. Time seemed to rewind. They talked for hours, a comfortable ease settling between them as if no time had passed. They reminisced about stolen kisses under the bleachers, late-night bonfires, and dreams spun from stardust. He learned of her college sweetheart turned husband, a loveless marriage that had finally crumbled. She listened as he spoke of his own failed union, a web of ambition and infidelity that had left him disillusioned. Their shared experiences, the scars of past mistakes, created an unspoken bond, a vulnerability that drew them closer. The diner emptied, the staff giving them knowing glances as they lingered. The conversation turned intimate, laced with unspoken desires. He reminisced about her laugh, a sound he claimed to have never forgotten. She confessed how the memory of his touch still lingered on her skin. As the night wore on, the air crackled with unspoken tension. Their bodies, subtly brushing in the cramped booth, seemed to send electric pulses coursing through them. Finally, Michael reached across the table, his fingers brushing hers. It was a spark that ignited a wildfire. He cupped her cheek, his touch sending a jolt of heat through her. Their lips met in a kiss that was both desperate and tender, years of longing compressed into a single moment. It was a kiss of rediscovery, of rekindled passion, a dance of tongues that spoke a language only they understood. He pulled away, his breath ragged, eyes blazing with desire. "Sarah," he rasped, "my apartment's just a few blocks away." There were no protests, no questions. It was a decision made by their bodies, a primal urge fueled by years of unfulfilled desires. They stumbled out into the cool night air, hands intertwined, a shared hunger burning in their eyes. His apartment was small, sparsely furnished, a bachelor's haven. But in the dim light, it felt like a haven, a sanctuary for them. Clothes were discarded in a flurry, limbs tangled as they explored each other's bodies with a newfound urgency. 20 years had added wisdom, a deeper appreciation for the nuances of touch. Their lovemaking was a slow, sensual exploration, punctuated by whispered endearments and breathless moans. He rekindled memories of her most sensitive spots, sending shivers of pleasure down her spine. The years of pent-up longing erupted in a symphony of gasps and sighs. His touch was a brand on her skin, a searing reminder of a love that time had never truly dimmed. They found a rhythm, their bodies moving in perfect unison, culminating in an explosion of shared pleasure that left them breathless and sated, yet yearning for more. As they lay tangled in the afterglow, a comfortable silence settling around them, a question gnawed at Sarah. "What now, Michael?" she whispered, tracing a finger along the curve of his shoulder, the question hanging heavy in the air. Michael turned to her, his gaze tender. "I don't know," he admitted, a hint of vulnerability in his voice. "But I know I can't let you walk out of my life again, Sarah." They both knew this wasn't a carefree high school romance rekindled. Their lives were more complex now, burdened by past relationships and the responsibilities of adulthood. Yet, denying their connection, that undeniable spark they'd reawakened, seemed impossible. The following days were a whirlwind. Stolen moments during lunch breaks, weekend rendezvous at secluded cabins, a desperate attempt to recapture the lost years. But reality, a harsh mistress, always intruded. There were phone calls to dodge, ex-spouses demanding attention, and the weight of gossip swirling around Harmony Falls, the town notorious for its long memories. The burden of responsibility, especially towards their children, added another layer of complication. One evening, as they sat on a park bench overlooking the familiar town square, the weight of their situation seemed to press down on them. "This can't be sustainable, can it?" Sarah sighed, the words heavy with resignation. Michael ran a hand through his hair, frustration etched on his face. "No," he conceded. "But Sarah, this between us, it's real. And I can't just pretend it doesn't exist." Their conversation stretched late into the night, filled with honest reflections and painful truths. They acknowledged the undeniable chemistry, the emotional resonance that transcended time. Yet, they recognized the dangers of a reckless pursuit. Their past mistakes, the wreckage of their failed marriages, served as stark reminders. A solution arrived not with a grand gesture, but with a quiet understanding. They wouldn't rush into anything. They'd take things slow, navigate the complexities of their lives with honesty and respect. They would cherish the stolen moments, the rekindled intimacy, but wouldn't let it blind them to the realities they faced. There were challenges, of course. Sarah dealt with the passive-aggressive barbs from her ex-husband, while Michael faced the judgmental whispers of his small-town circle. But they faced them together, their bond strengthened by shared vulnerability and the quiet promise of something real. Their relationship unfolded at a measured pace. They spent evenings rediscovering their hometown, hand in hand, sharing stories and dreams. They cooked elaborate meals in Michael's tiny apartment, laughing over burnt omelets and forgetting about time. They even attended a school reunion, their arrival causing a collective gasp from their former classmates. Throughout it all, the physical attraction remained, a simmering heat beneath the surface. But it was now intertwined with a deeper understanding, a respect born from their shared experiences. Their stolen kisses held a bittersweet tenderness, a promise of a future they were carefully building. One rainy afternoon, huddled together in Michael's apartment, Sarah confessed, "You know, being back here, it wasn't just about nostalgia." He looked at her, a knowing smile playing on his lips. "I figured." "Coming back," she continued, her voice catching in her throat, it was about finding a way to recapture a piece of what we lost." They both reminisced about their teenage dreams, the promises whispered under the starry sky. Maybe, just maybe, they thought, they could salvage a version of that future, a more mature, nuanced version. But dreams, as always, needed to face the harsh light of reality. Sarah had her job in the city, her children to consider. Michael, with his established business in Harmony Falls, had roots that ran deep. The distance, once a hurdle they couldn't overcome, loomed again. "There's no easy solution, is there?" Sarah asked, the question laced with a hint of despair. Michael shook his head, a solemn expression on his face. No, he admitted, drawing her close. But whatever path we choose, Sarah, I want you in my life. Even if it's just friendship. They held each other tightly, the unspoken longing hanging in the air. Friendship. It seemed almost cruel, a pale imitation of the passion they shared. The following weeks were filled with a heavy silence. They knew a decision loomed, a choice that would shape their future. It was on a crisp autumn morning, the leaves ablaze with color, that Sarah walked into Michael's apartment, her suitcase in tow. I quit my job, she announced, her voice steady despite the tremor in her heart. Michael's eyes widened in surprise. You what? I can't stay in the city anymore, she continued, her gaze locking with his. I can't pretend this isn't real, she finished, her voice dropping to a whisper. A nervous energy crackled between them, the weight of her decision hanging heavy in the air. Michael's initial shock gave way to a hesitant smile. Are you sure, Sarah? This changes everything. I know, she admitted, stepping closer and brushing a stray curl from his forehead. But maybe that's what we need. A fresh start. His breath hitched as he cupped her face, his thumb tracing the soft skin beneath her eye. This isn't some impulsive decision you'll regret, is it? She shook her head, her gaze unwavering. No. This is about taking a chance. About following my heart, even if it leads us into uncharted territory. A slow smile spread across his face, mirroring the warmth blooming in her chest. He pulled her into a tight embrace, his voice a husky murmur against her ear. Then let's explore this uncharted territory together, Sarah. Hand in hand. Finding an apartment in Harmony Falls proved easier than anticipated. Sarah landed a job at the local bookstore, her love for literature finding a new outlet. Michael's business thrived, his passion reignited by the renewed energy in his life. Their relationship blossomed slowly, nurtured by shared evenings, lazy Sundays spent exploring the local hiking trails, and stolen moments of intimacy that spoke volumes more than words. There were challenges, of course. Sarah's children, initially apprehensive about the upheaval in their lives, eventually warmed up to Michael, his genuine affection and goofy sense of humor winning them over. The gossip mill continued to churn, but it gradually lost its potency as they carved out their space in the close-knit community. They learned to navigate the inevitable comparisons to their high school romance, understanding that this was a different chapter, a more mature love story forged in the fires of experience. 5 years flew by. Their apartment, once a bachelor pad, now held the remnants of a shared life, mismatched mugs, a well-loved board game, and a framed photograph from their high school prom. They hadn't discussed marriage, a silent agreement that their bond transcended societal labels. One blustery winter evening, curled up on the couch with a mug of hot cocoa, a comfortable silence settled between them. Sarah broke it, a playful glint in her eye. Remember that time we promised to travel the world together? Michael chuckled, a nostalgic smile gracing his lips. How could I forget? We were going to sail the Greek islands, climb the Himalayas. We still can, she interjected, a mischievous glint in her eyes. Just a slightly older, slightly less reckless version of us. His smile widened. Maybe we could start with a weekend getaway. Somewhere warm with sandy beaches. Their eyes locked, a spark of shared excitement igniting between them. It wasn't the future they envisioned in their teens, but it was a future they were building together, brick by beautiful brick. In the quiet intimacy of their shared life, they had rediscovered a love that burned brighter than ever, a love that whispered promises not of forever, but of a forever they would define on their own terms.